All right. Hey guys, how are we doing? I am going to be reading book 5 of Chesterton's Ballad of the White Horse. Over the course of the past week, I've taken some time out to do some Facebook live streaming of this particular epic poem by G.K. Chesterton. FB Live wasn't working out too well with my camera. We're going to see if this works a little bit better. And hopefully you guys can hear me and all that wonderful stuff. I'm hoping that is the case, right? Book 5. Let's talk about it. We have Alfred and his compatriots and his chieftains, his fellow chieftains, going up against the Danes. This is the beginning of the battle. It's book 5 is called Ethandune, the First Stroke. Ethandune was where this battle allegedly took place in the late 800s. And we have Alfred, after kind of coming to this understanding of humility that he should have as a king, that as a king that he serves his people, is better to lead them into battle now. That he's been chastised by a peasant woman, and having been chastised and having understood his role a little bit better, he goes on to ready for the battle. And indeed, this was the morning of, as the Danes start advancing towards them, and as King Alfred's Saxon army advances towards them as well. So, without further ado, here we go. Join me, if you will, a frosty beverage. Sit back and relax and enjoy this time of storytelling during a time of quarantine. All right, here we go, guys. Book 5. Ethandune, the First Stroke. King Guthrum was a dread king, like death out of the north. Shrines without name or number, he rent and rolled as lumber. From Chester to the Humber, he drove his foremen forth. The Roman villas heard him in the valley of the Thames, come over the hills roaring above their roofs and pouring on spire and stair and flooring, brimstone and pitch and flames. Sheer over the great chalk uplands and the hill of the horse went he, till high on the Hampshire beacons he saw the southern sea. High on the heights of Wessex he saw the southern brine, and turned him to a conquered land, and where the northern thornwoods stand and the road parts on either hand, there came to him a sign. King Guthrum was a war chief, a wise man in the field, and though he prospered well and knew how Alfred's folks were sad and few, not less with weighty care he drew long lines for pike and shield. King Guthrum lay on the upper land, on a single road at gaze, and his foe must come with lean array up the left arm of the cloven way to the meeting of the ways. And long ere the noise of armor, an hour ere the break of light, the woods awoke with crash and cry, and the birds sprang clamoring harsh and high, and the rabbits ran like an elves' army ere Alfred came in sight. The live wood came at Guthrum, on foot and claw and wing. The nests were noisy overhead, for Alfred and the star of red, all life went forth, and the forest fled before the face of the king. But halted in the woodways, Christ's few were grim and gray, and each with a small, far, bird-like sight saw the high folly of the fight. And those strange joys had grown in the night, despair grew with the day. And when white dawn crawled through the wood like cold foam of a flood, then weakened every warrior's mood in hope, though not in hardihood, and each man sorrowed as he stood in the fashion of his blood. For the Saxon Franklin sorrowed for the things that had been fair, for the dear dead women crimson clad, and the great feasts and the friends he had, but the Celtic prince's soul was sad for the things that never were. In the eyes Italian all things but a black laughter died, and Alfred flung his shield to earth and smote his breast and cried, I wronged a man to his slaying, and a woman to her shame, and once I looked on a sworn maid that was wed to the holy name, and once I took my neighbor's wife that was bound to an Eastland man, in the starkness of my evil youth before my griefs began. People, if you have any prayers, say a prayer for me, and lay me under a Christian stone in that lost land I thought my own, to wait till the holy horn is blown and all poor men are free. Then Eldred of the idle farm leaned on his ancient sword, as fell his heavy words and few, and his eyes were of a alien blue, as gleams where the Northman saileth new into an unknown fjord. I was a fool in wasted ale, my slaves found it sweet. I was a fool in wasted bread, and the birds had bread to eat. The kings go up and the kings go down, and who knows who shall rule? Next night a king may starve or sleep, but men and birds and beasts shall weep at the burial of a fool. Oh, drunkards in my cellar, boys in my apple tree, the world grows stern and strange and new, and wise men shall govern you, and you shall weep for me. But yoke me mine own oxen, down to mine own farm. My own dog will whine for me. My own friends will bend the knee, and the foes I slew openly have never wished me harm. And all were moved a little, but Colin stood apart, having first pity, and after hearing like a rat in rafter that little worm of laughter that eats the Irish heart. And his gray-green eyes were cruel, and the smile of his mouth waxed hard. And he said, and when did Britain become your burying yard? Before the Romans lit the land, when schools and monks were none, we reared such stones to the sun god as might put out the sun. The tall trees of Britain we worshipped and were wise. But you shall raid the whole land through, and never a tree shall talk to you, though every leaf is a tongue taught true, and the forest is full of eyes. On one round hill to the seaward, the trees grow tall and gray, and the trees talk together when all men are away. Oh, our few round hills forgotten, the trees grow tall in rings, and the trees talk together of many a pagan thing. Yet I could lie and listen, with a cross upon my clay, and hear unhurt forever what the trees of Britain say. A proud man was the Roman, his speech a single one, but his eyes were of the eagle's eyes that is staring at the sun. Dig for me whether I die, he said, if first or last I fall, dead on the fell at first charge, or dead by wantage wall. Lift not my head from the bloody ground, bear not my body home, for all the earth is Roman earth, and I shall die in Rome. Then Alfred, King of England, bade blow the horns of war, and fling the golden dragon out with crackle and acclaim and shout, strolled and aflame and far. And under the golden dragon went Wessex all along, past the sharp point of the cloven ways, out from the black wood into the blaze of sun and steel and song. And when they came to the open land, they wheeled and deployed and stood. Midmost were Marcus and the king, and Eldred on the right-hand wing, and leftwards Colin, darkling in the last shade of the wood. But the earls of the great army lay like a long half moon, 10 poles before their palisades with wide-wing helms and runic blades, red giants of an age of raids in the Thorland of Ethandune. Midmost the saddles rose and swayed, and a stir of horses' manes, where Guthrum and a few rode high on horses seized in victory, but Ogier went on foot to die in the old ways of the Danes. Far to the king's left, Elf the bard led on the eastern wing, with songs and spells that changed the blood, and on the king's right Harold stood, the kinsman of the king. Young Harold, coarse, with colors gay, smoking with oil and musk, and the pleasant violence of the young pushed through his people, giving tongue forwards where, gray as cobwebs, hung the banners of the Usk. But as he came before his line a little space along, his beardless face broke into mirth, and he cried, "What broken bits of earth are here? For what clothes are worth? I would sell them for a song." For Colin was hung with raiment, tattered like autumn's leaves, and his men were all thin as saints, and all as poor as thieves. No bows nor slings nor bolts they bore, but bills and pikes ill-made, and none but Colin bore a sword, and rusty was its blade. And Colin's eyes with mystery and iron laughter stirred, and he spoke aloud but lightly, not laboring to be heard. "Oh, truly we be broken hearts. For that cause it is said, we light our candles to that Lord that broke himself for bread. But though we hold but bitterly, what land the Saxon leaves, though Ireland be a land of saints, and Wales a land of thieves, I say you yet shall weary of the working of your word, that stricken spirits never strike, nor lean hands hold a sword. And if ye ever ride to Ireland, the jest may yet be said, there is a land of broken hearts and a land of broken heads." Not less barbarian laughter choked Harold like a flood. "And shall I fight with scarecrows that I am Guthrum's blood? Meeting may be of warmen, where the best warman wins, but all this carrion a man shoots before the fight begins." And stopping in his onward strides, he snatched a bow in scorn from some mean slave and bent on it Colin, whose doom grew dark and shone stars evil over Caerleon in the place where he was born. For Colin had neither bow nor sling. On a lonely sword leaned he, like Arthur on Excalibur in the battle by the sea. To his great gold earring Harold tugged back the feathered tail, and swift had sprung the arrow, but swifter sprang the gale. Whirling the one sword round his head, a great wheel in the sun, he sent it splendid through the sky, flying before the shaft could fly. It smote Earl Harold o'er the eye, and blood began to run. Colin stood bare and weaponless. Earl Harold, as in pain, strove for a smile, put hand to head, stumbled, and suddenly fell dead, and the white small daisies all waxed red with blood out of his brain. And all at that marvel of the sword, cast like a stone to slay, cried out, said Alfred, "Who would see signs must give all things. Verily, man shall not taste of victory till he throws his sword away." Then Alfred, Prince of England, and all the Christian earls unhooked their swords and held them up. Each offered to Colin like a cup of chrysolites and pearls. And the king said, "Do thou take my sword, who have done this deed of fire, For it is the matter of Christian men, whether of steel or priestly pen, that cast their hearts here out of their ken to get their heart's desire. And whether ye swear a hive of monks or one wife to a friend, this is the manner of Christian men, that their oaths endure to the end. For love, our Lord, at the end of the world sits a red horse like a throne, with a brazen helm and an iron bow, but one arrow alone. Love, with the shield of the broken heart, ever his bow doth bend, with single shaft for a single prize, an ultimate bolt that parts and flies, comes with the thunder of split skies and the sound of souls that rend. So shall you earn the king's sword, who cast your sword away. And the king took, with a random eye, a rude axe from behind hard by, and turned him to the fray. For the swords of the earls of the Daneland flamed round the fallen lord. The first blood woke the trumpet tune, as in monks' rhymes or wizards' runes, beginneth the battle of Ethandune with the throwing of a sword. That is book 5 of Ballad of the White Horse by G.K. Chesterton. Tune in tomorrow, guys. I'll be reading book 6 and the continuation of the battle, and I hope to see you guys again. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.